They told you a story about Africa that fits neatly inside a press release and an ignorant headline. But the truth unfolding on the Cape coastline is louder, stranger, and far more consequential than any one-liner. So listen closely. Imagine a site of concrete, steel, and human resolve, born in the tense decades of the late 20th century. A place that has quietly kept a modern nation upright through political storms, severe load shedding, and economic anxiety. Imagine engineers who measured every margin twice, safety teams who rehearsed emergency scenarios like religious rites, and regulators who demanded a level of proof that would make skeptics uncomfortable. This place is Koeberg, and this month it did something that forces the world to adjust its assumptions. In a decision that arrived without a brass band, but with the full weight of regulatory scrutiny, South Africa's Koeberg Unit 2 has been authorized to operate for another 20 years, carrying the plant into 2045. This came after a multi-year safety review and upgrades that convinced the national nuclear regulator the installation meets the demanding standards required for long-term operation. What you're seeing is not a technicality. This is a formal validation that a complex, high-precision energy system, the only operational commercial nuclear power station on the African continent, has passed a sequence of inspections and refurbishments that many older plants in wealthier countries still struggle to complete. If you're watching this channel, you'll already know how the energy conversation usually goes. Solar and wind are heroes. Batteries are the promised future, and nuclear is framed as a distant, risky dream for everywhere else. But here's the blunt truth you must hold in both hands. Koeberg supplies reliable baseload power that renewables cannot promise on their own. With Unit 2's life extended, South Africa secures roughly 1,800 megawatts of continuous, round-the-clock electricity. This is the power that undergirds industry, hospitals, ports, factories, and the very possibility of economic expansion. This is the kind of power that keeps smelters running through the night, that keeps surgical suites sterile during storms, that allows data centers to promise uptime to international clients. For a nation trying to balance decarbonization with economic stability, that certainty isn't a slogan, it's a strategic asset. But beyond kilowatts and thermal cycles, there's another signal here. A psychological tectonic shift that matters just as much as the electricity itself. For decades, the global chorus insisted that Africa could not safely master ultra-high-tech, high-responsibility infrastructure. They repeated that Africa lacked regulatory rigor, that it lacked the cultures of maintenance and discipline required for systems that do not forgive error. Koeberg's 4 decades of operation, and now a validated 2-decade extension, answer that chorus in a language the pundits cannot ignore. This is not merely technical competence. It is the cultivation of an engineering culture. It's an intergenerational knowledge pipeline where seasoned operators teach novices how to read a reactor, subtle behaviors the way a physician reads a pulse. It's about safety drills that are not optional, about auditors who look for proof, not shortcuts. That culture is Africa's export now, and other nations on the continent are watching and learning. Consider how this plays out regionally. Egypt is pushing forward with large-scale nuclear projects. Nigeria is advancing discussions on small modular reactors for industrial clusters. Several East African states are building regulatory frameworks. The example of Koeberg shifts those conversations from theoretical to practical, because it provides evidence that nuclear governance and skill can exist and thrive on African soil. There will be critics, legal challenges, and the important voices demanding transparency. Those debates are healthy and necessary, but real leadership isn't the absence of scrutiny. It's the ability to meet it methodically and convincingly. That is exactly what happened here. Structural assessments, steam generator replacements, upgraded monitoring systems, seismic reviews, and extensive personnel retraining formed the scaffolding of this approval. The regulators didn't hand over an indulgence. They recorded findings, required fixes, and granted permission only when the evidence satisfied their rigorous criteria. Now, let's be candid about why that matters beyond national pride. South Africa's energy planning depends on a stable core of dispatchable power, while it scales renewables and builds storage. Removing nearly 2,000 megawatts of reliable baseload overnight would force panic decisions, expensive fossil fuel imports, hurried construction, or worse, a slide back into chronic blackouts that scare away industry and investment. With Koeberg secured into 2045, policymakers have breathing space to do the hard work, right, to build transmission corridors, to scale battery systems, to create the industrial ecosystems that convert raw minerals into finished goods here on the continent. Time is often the unsung currency of strategic transitions, and Koeberg just bought 2 decades worth of it for South Africa. There's also an economic psychology at play. Investors evaluate risk, and when baseload reliability is demonstrable, they commit. Factories, green hydrogen facilities, and data centers require the certainty that only dependable electricity can provide. When a nation can point to a credible, long-term nuclear asset, it alters the risk calculus for billions in investment. But this story isn't just about policy and investor confidence. It's a human story of sustained competence and responsibility. The maintenance crews who worked through long nights, the safety officers who refused to accept shorthand inspections, the senior engineers who mentored younger staff, these are the people whose steady labor made this outcome possible. They represent a generation of African professionals who have transformed skepticism into institutional strength. If you've watched this far, take a short, silent credit for yourself. Focusing through the noise means you see patterns others miss. That sharp attention is rare, and it's exactly what this conversation rewards. And because transparency matters, know that everything in this video is grounded in verifiable reporting and regulatory records. Our work is built on deep research and facts you can check. Now, imagine the ripple effects, a continent where reliable power is the foundation, not the exception. Where renewable fleets can be installed intelligently and industrial policy is achievable because energy risk has been tamed. That isn't fantasy. It's a road that can be followed, with proof from a single plant that sustained excellence for 40 years and now holds a validated path forward for 20 more. Of course, there are costs and legitimate debates about waste management, decommissioning plans, and ecological trade-offs. None of those points are trivial, and they deserve fierce public attention. But the central truth is this: Africa can host, operate, and regulate high technology at world-class standards, and Koeberg's license extension is practical proof of that capability. So, what happens next? Countries across the continent won't copy Koeberg exactly, but they will borrow lessons: how to build technical training programs, how to develop transparent oversight, how to integrate nuclear baseload with renewables. The result could be a fundamentally different African energy landscape by 2040. One where growth is propelled by strategic electrification, not hindered by chronic power shortages. Before we wrap up, remember, this is not just a moment for pride. It is a practical signal that long-term infrastructure requires patience, discipline, and an unwillingness to cut corners. If you care about manufacturing jobs, about affordable electricity, about a healthier environment, then you should care about what this license extension makes possible. In the days ahead, we'll host a live Q&A session where I'll answer your questions directly about the technical, economic, and political implications of Koeberg's extension. So, write your questions in the comments and bring the hard ones, because we will tackle them honestly. If this video sharpened your view of Africa's potential and helped you see beyond the tired narratives like this video, share it with someone who needs to understand how strategic energy decisions reshape nations. And subscribe now to support more deep, research-driven storytelling that refuses easy answers and rewards your attention.